In this series of videos teaching about parenting autistic children, I draw on my professional experience of supporting over 1,000 families and working with children and families for over 20 years, as well as my personal experience as an autistic individual. In this video, I'll share about comforting through stroking and touching and the importance of a low sensory environment. Stroking can help autistic children to relax. Every child is different. Some may not like to be touched at all. Others may like stroking from a parent but not from other people. Some may like stroking but only in specific locations, like being stroked on the back or hair or arm, but may find stroking unbearable elsewhere. You'll know your own child and what they're likely to be comfortable with. The stroking may have to be a specific pressure, so stroking a child too softly can sometimes actually create more sensory input and be more uncomfortable than stroking a bit firmer, where for another child, stroking firmer may be uncomfortable. So it isn't just where you stroke which you'll need to consider, but also how you stroke. Stroking has other advantages when it comes to helping a child to relax. If you stroke in time with their breathing, for example, and then slow down the stroking, this can lead to breathing to slow down as well, helping the child to relax their breathing and to calm down without having to encourage them to do so. When stroking, it's important that the parent is calm and relaxed because this will be conveyed through the stroking. The child is likely to unconsciously pick up whether the parent is relaxed or not, and if they aren't, then the child could end up taking on some of that tension rather than relaxing. If a parent has more than one child, it's often difficult to make the whole home into a low sensory environment. But it is useful if there's at least somewhere in the home which is low sensory for the child to go when they need to calm down. In my parenting work, I've seen environments which are too busy for autistic children, and I can fully understand why the child is playing up at home. I've arrived at homes with different types of music playing loudly from multiple bedrooms, a radio on in the kitchen and a television on in the sitting room. There are dogs and cats running around everywhere and children running around and shouting, and lights are on in all of the rooms. This may sound like a normal family home because, in my experience, it is. And a sterile, cold-looking family home with everything ordered and quiet would probably not be the kind of environment suited for most children to grow up in. But if a child is autistic, all of this, which for most people, especially visitors who maybe don't have their own children, can seem hectic and overwhelming, is heightened. It all becomes overwhelming and you feel like you have no escape from it. You want to stop the noise and visual stimulation, and you want to scream to banish it all. I was lucky, I grew up in the countryside. At home as a child, I had to share a bedroom with one of my brothers. We had pets, including a dog, and home life was hectic, but I could go out into the woodland after school and sit in a tree and relax, and come home when everyone was in bed and everything was quiet. But if the child is growing up in a town or city environment, they may not have this luxury. It may be possible in some family homes for the child to have their own bedroom so that they have their space, or it may be possible for them to have a quiet location somewhere in the house, like in the dining room when it isn't a mealtime, or in a space set up for them elsewhere in the home. At my grandparents' house, growing up, I used to love sitting in one of the sheds. It was quite a small space, so it couldn't fit all my brothers in there with me, and it was warm and comfortable. At another house, when my grandparents moved, they had a small spare bedroom. Nan had made a long cushion which she would put on the left side of the bed against the wall and make the bed into a sofa. This room only fit a single bed and the wardrobe and drawers, with about half a metre of floor space between the bed and the wardrobe and drawers. This was an ideal space to relax in. All my brothers would prefer to be downstairs in the sitting room, watching television or playing games, but I was happy to be upstairs in the spare bedroom. Sometimes I'd create a den underneath tables as somewhere to go that was a low sensory environment. As a child, I didn't have headphones. I was a teenager when I got my first Walkman, and before that, I would just absorb myself in something and try to find an environment where I had low visual sensory input. I'd be as far away as possible from noise as I could. I had to be creative about how to find low sensory environments. I would sit in cupboards that were barely large enough for me to fit into and would happily sit in there in the dark. Sometimes I would take a torch in with me so that I could read, but I wouldn't want more light than this, especially if I'd been stressed or angry. Because when stressed or angry, my hypersensitivity to sensory input increased significantly, which would make me want to escape even more. This is the same for other autistic people. High sensory environments are likely to increase their levels of stress or anger, making them exhibit increasing levels of challenging behaviour or pushing them to escape or withdraw from the environment. And they may feel the need to become aggressive to achieve this. If you can give your child a space of their own that is quiet and comfortably lit rather than brightly lit, this will help them as an outlet to calm down. It could be their bedroom, or it could be another room, or just a space, a den made for them in a room. This space will ideally be clear from disorganised clutter or mess. When things are messy, this draws your attention to it and it can become distracting. So having things neatly stacked and ordered feels more comforting than mess all over the place. I own thousands of books, and in some places that I've lived, I've had books and DVDs stacked in piles on the floor due to a lack of space. To me, these are tidy because everything has an order, and I don't mind clutter as long as it is organised clutter. But my wife feels that everything is messy, which is understandable when she can't see the floor due to the piles of books. I also don't have a problem with mess that I can't see. If I'm looking in one specific location all the time, everything else in the room can be messy and I won't pay attention to it, or I won't care about it, because what I'm not paying attention to isn't in my mind, which is a common trait among autistic people. So if a low sensory space is set up perhaps in a corner of a room where only blank walls can be seen, then this may also work well, even if the rest of the room is quite messy. Obviously, the ideal situation is to create the whole environment as low sensory, with volume of television or radios turned down, dim lights on instead of bright lights, and having people behaving in a calm, relaxed way. Thank you for watching.